Four parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. Four parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here. Four parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really wanna talk about this. Four parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here.
Babe, hand me a beer.
Hello!
Hello!
And welcome to No Dysfunction Here.
It's us.
I'm Toby.
I'm AJ.
I'm Tiff.
Jake's like, fuck you
And
guys.
y'all are weird. I'm Jake.
And this is episode 29. Thank you so much for being here. We have really loved doing this together. It's been a fun way to experience each other. It's like a totally new dimension
true.
we're meeting in.
Much like ecstasy. It
Yeah.
has
I just said,
fun
are
way
we
to
rolling?
Experience each other. So.
Yeah, next episode we will be rolling. Just kidding.
Wow.
That would be crazy. We'll have to quit our federal jobs before we ever do any real drugs.
Here we go.
Hey, 29 episodes and we haven't done any swinging.
Oh.
Pretty impressed with us.
Yeah.
Well done, guys. Way
yeah,
to keep it
we gotta
platonic.
wait till like mid-30s to really.
Yeah.
We're still
I don't-
easing them in.
I don't
the
open up
truth.
to just anybody.
It takes him a lot
Mhm.
to really get to know somebody. So
You gotta start
I'm
gentle.
still working on it,
Yeah.
and once I get in,
She's
maybe
gonna
you
get
guys.
lucky one of these days.
So today I completely forgot what we were talking about. Tiff, can you remind me?
Yes.
Health.
We are talking
Nutrition.
about health and
Yes.
exercise and wellness, encourage or shame.
Thank you. So, how to help your kids be healthy? How do you do that? Do you shame them into it? Or do you love them into it? How do we help our kids be the happiest, healthiest, exercising, eating well? Holy cow, this has been a struggle for me since day one. My kids were born and immediately I was like, I am responsible for what creates this human. Everything that goes into their mouth is creating them, and like that stressed me out. And my first baby was very difficult to nurse, so I had to pump, and I was like, literally the bottles were pink with my blood because I
Delish.
was in so much pain, but I refused to give my baby formula because I was like, like I had people be like, formula isn't as good for the baby, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I literally was hospitalized twice trying to give my baby breast milk. It was horrible and difficult, but it really was like me shaming myself, you know? And then I realized it's okay. It's okay to give your baby whatever it needs. And anyway, so from day one, that's been a struggle. And then I was extremely uptight with my children with what they ate. We had sugar cereal only on Saturdays that we called Saturday cereal. And we had a Sunday treat, you know, we'd walk to the gas station most of the time and let everyone pick a treat. But I really tried my best. And I remember my kids just always wanting sugar and treats and candy. And so one time I created a jar of candy that I decided, okay, what if they just have unlimited candy? Maybe they'll find their own balance. But at that point, I think it was too late because I had already restricted it so much.
The restriction
They
was in
just
full
ate
effect.
and ate and ate and ate so
We never
much
know if we'll
candy,
get this
and
candy again.
Eventually, I'm like, okay, fuck this jar. I'm losing my mind. So it has been a hard thing for it. You know, my daughter and I were talking about it pretty recently, and I was like, if I had a child now, what would I do differently? You know, I think I would just loosen up and just try to be as healthy as I can. But honestly, I still feel like I do not have all the answers, and it would still be a bit of a stress for me because it's such a responsibility.
100%. You are nourishing your child and wanting them to be healthy. So it's a lot, but there are so many different diets in this world. And whether you are vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, you know, you eat everything, whatever it is. Like there are so many different varieties of how you can eat in a healthy way. And there's different ways. Like I know I've attempted to go vegan. I've attempted to go vegetarian. Like right now I'm on a huge high protein, you know, eating thing. But I've learned that I don't just have to eat meat. to get my protein. And that was hugely eye-opening for me. I'm like, wow, I can get protein from, cottage cheese and da 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 da. So I mean, I don't think there's a specific staple to stick to, as long as what's going in is making you feel good. And tons of sugar, tons of things that are processed. At the end of your day, your belly's gonna hurt, which should be your trigger. Today wasn't a good day for me. And that happens.
So how do we teach our children to care for their own bodies, to want to be healthy, want to be active, want to feed their bodies healthy things? What's the answer?
That's a really good question.
Just
Tune in next time. Maybe we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure this shit out. This is a really, really, really tough subject because I don't know. I feel like the more you put the spotlight on this subject, the more you're worried that you're fucking up your kid more than not bringing it up at all. Like, okay, they're just, they're going through a phase where they're eating too much and they're putting on a few pounds, but if I bring it up, then, because it gets brought up one time in my childhood, and I've had a weight complex my entire life. And it was only from it getting brought up once. Plus, getting brought up once by parents at the age of 10, but then just being chubby in the first place, starting at the age of 10, and how you end up getting teased, like, socially at school, which I think is pretty typical and probably never going to change. So it's like, I don't know, because it really messed with me, and it's something that I continue every single day. It's on the forefront of my mind or in the back of my mind that I'm overweight, and how is that affecting me in whatever situation I'm in.
I think
I have
that's...
sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I was just going to
First.
ask, if that's okay, can you think of anything that you would do differently if you were your own parent at that age, or like anything that could have helped as a kid?
Well, and that's what's so tough. Is like, all right, so what coulda, woulda, shoulda, what could have made it all different for me? And I really don't know what the answer is. But, I look at some examples, like some dear friends of ours. They've got an 11-year-old boy that eats when he wants, and he eats whatever he wants. And he's a goddamn beanpole. He's a physically fit 11-year-old boy, and they don't make him eat when he doesn't want to. And when he does want to eat, he says what he's craving, and they give him whatever he wants, but that doesn't mean that would work for everybody. There's so many different things that factor into it. Different genetics, different this, different that,
And that's what's hard. I think if you have, for our family, we have a lot of kids. And all of them, their activity level is different. Their metabolisms are different. Like, genetics are different. So, you may have a child that just sits around and does nothing all day, but they have a super high metabolism. So it's like, well, I'm not going to push them to go outside and work out and do things because they look physically fit. And then you have another child that is, busting their butt, and they're active, and they play sports, and they're in activities, and they eat well, but they are big boned. You know what I mean? They have a bigger stature. And, it is so difficult because you want to be encouraging, but you want to be, I think, informative too.
Yeah, and I think it's worth mentioning that even when, like for instance, I just went on a hike, and it was a very little hike when we went camping a few weeks ago at Lake Pleasant. It was like we hiked down to the lake and back twice. And the next day I was so sore. I was like, oh my God, I am so out of shape. And so like, even just being thin might not be healthy. And we want to teach our children to be healthy, even no matter what size they are, And I think when I really think about it, the only hope that we have as parents is an example. Kids do as we do, not as we say, you know? And I do remember teaching Sunday lessons about nutrition. I've always been like someone who really reads a lot about nutrition and trying to just teach and educate kids and hope that they make decisions for themselves. But ultimately, living a healthy life that is balanced, you know, I had children when I was very young, very unhealthy, I did not even understand that nutrition affected my health. It was like such a disconnect that when I was diagnosed with MS, it was the first time that I started, my neurologist is like, dairy is inflammatory and red meat is making this worse, you know? That's the first time I even had a connection of like, oh my God, what I eat affects my health, you know? And so just to teach that to children through doing rather than preaching, I think is more important than anything. And I didn't provide that to my kids very well because we got married young and we were eating Burger King and Taco Bell and ordering pizzas and whatever, you know? And so I think if I were to advise a couple or a parent having a child now, I would just say, do your best to be the healthiest you can be, and your child will hopefully just learn from the life they've been given. You know, we live a balanced life. I don't know. But there's no guarantees, that's for sure.
I think a good starting point too for anybody is separating out and taking weight completely out of it, because and making it completely about nutrition and about health and doing things that are good for your body, and also recognizing in that there's not a one size fits all for everyone, that like just like in every other way human beings are different, human beings are also going to be, you know, some people are fucking allergic to tomatoes, you know, or whatever it is. Like it's not going to be the same for every single person, and always having those conversations as educational around nutrition and health. I believe, and I talk about it quite a bit, that like romantic love and romantic partnerships tend to drive just about everyone in decision making. And when kids are younger, that's not a part of their life. They don't have that aspect of them. A good example is like, what's a good example? Teenage boys, when they like 12, 13 start to have BO, they're very unaware of it. Like they do not care. They don't even realize, whatever, you know, like what you'll pick up a kid and their friends from whatever, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to make this drive home or whatever, you know? And that's just everybody. Like everybody goes through that and whatnot, you know? But as you get older, not just that, but a million things, you start, whatever it is that motivates you in life, you start to think about those things differently. And so I think the idea of natural consequences in food and diet really helps the part of like feeling physically fit, being in shape, stuff like that, because I think 99% of people are driven to want to be that without anybody telling them this is what you need to do to make sure of whatever, you know? And so they'll figure it out. But the health side of it, not always so much. We live in a very like external society where we're judging how people look, judging how people behave, not necessarily what's on the inside. And so that teaches us when we're younger to not prioritize it at all. The priority is to look good in this pair of pants, to have, you know, less body fat or all these things or whatever. And that's at the end of the day just not what is really important, and something that gets driven by your natural desire to want to be that, because that's what society teaches us all the time. So I think if you focus on nutrition and health when it comes to food, and being open to having a child figure that out as they go, and you know, like, you want to make this decision to that's great or whatever, they're up all night puking or makes them sick. You know, I remember telling my mom when I was younger, like, I want 8 hot dogs because I was turning 8 years old, like buns, the whole ordeal. And after like 3, she was like, I don't think this is a good idea. And I was like, well, I want it, I'm 8 years old, whatever. And she let me eat all 8 hot dogs, and I puked all night, and I was sick, and it was terrible and gross. And it changed something in me from that natural consequence to be like, I'm never doing that again. I hate that, you know? And I think that just like everything else, we come into it as parents and we want to control, or we're using our own filters and perspective of what happened to us when we were younger. and we want to put that into diet just like we want to put it into everything else, and we can let more of a natural consequence and the learning as we go help figure that out instead of us having to tell them what it needs to be.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So what do we do if we didn't do it right from the beginning and we have a kid who has poor health habits, or kids that have poor health habits and they're teenagers already and they're already getting bullied, and like, how do we correct something that maybe we weren't doing it right, the parenting part from the beginning? How can we figure it out?
I think the first
Late.
Yeah, well, I think the first step is being able to acknowledge it to them, like if we can acknowledge, hey, we were going about this the wrong way, and I don't think the way we were going about it was working, and I understand that may have created in you a certain way that you view food or view what's important about food and diet, but I just want to be a help, and I trust you and your intuition and what's best for you, and how can I help, or what can we do together to help you feel better about going forward, the choices around food and health and nutrition. Like, it really, especially as they get older, it really is up to them anyway. Like, we shouldn't be being like, yeah, sorry, go figure it out, but we should say, like, we are sorry, or we don't have all the answers to everything, and what do you think is best, and how can I best help support that now, and even though I maybe didn't for the longest time.
I think, again, the answer is example.
Yeah.
I have found in my life that I cannot force my children to heal, but what I can do is take accountability where I know I can, and also change, like be better and do better, and hope that my kids see that that's bringing me happiness, and then they can do whatever variation of that they want, But I think the most important responsibility we have as parents is to live healthy, balanced lives, to care for ourselves. There's nothing more important we can do for our children as parents than to care for ourselves, because that is all we want for our children, is for them to properly care for themselves. So we must do that, and it is hard, and I haven't figured it all out, that's for sure. But I feel like that's what my goal is trying to be the healthiest I can be, to be the most healed version of myself that I could be, and hope that my children can take a page from that book, and that I can be a source of advice when they need it, or support or love or compassion, whatever they need. We're not perfect, and we can't set perfect examples, but even if they just see us being flawed and trying, then they will try too, is the hope.
And throwing in unconditional love, if they really understand, like,
Totally.
no choice you make, no decision you do with your life is going to make me feel differently about you. Like, I just love you, and if that's real and exists, then the rest can be worked through. And even if they're hard conversations, or it feels tough to take accountability in a spot, or whatever it is, like, if there's a relationship where that this person loves me no matter what, then you can get through those things, I think.
And I was having a conversation with one of our older kids recently who was being down on themselves for their health or whatever, and I said, you are so much further ahead than any of us ever were at this age. I was not even thinking about the way nutrition affects me, or what. You are allowed to be a young person. You are allowed to not have this figured out. You are allowed to eat whatever the fuck you want and make mistakes and figure it out. And like, don't think you have to have nutrition figured out when you're a teenager. Like, I was eating 2 Whoppers and a whole pizza myself when I was that age. You're growing, you just need to love yourself and not feel like you have to figure it all out, and not shame yourself at all. Just love yourself,
And I know one of our kiddos have said having a healthy relationship with food is important. Because if you have that negative thing, sometimes we're drawn to what is bad. And we're like, ooh, that's naughty, but I'm going to do it. So it's like having that healthy relationship and being like, oh, I love my apple. I love the banana. You know, I don't think you have to go down that path. But just knowing, like, it's okay.
Totally.
Will make things easier when you're making decisions.
And balance is good. Like, having a healthy diet doesn't mean avoiding things that are bad for you all the time,
No.
in my opinion.
Totally. Need to break this.
That was
up.
my joke, actually. So.
You want to spin the wheel?
Oh yeah, I don't think I've.
Ojpa. Did everyone see his Ojpa shirt
It's one
that
of my
Reagan made for?
favorites now.
Well, Tiff Creative made.
Do we need the video to be longer at all? I could just let
Nope,
this. Okay.
we don't.
I'm gonna do it the slow fingernail stuff.
Ooh,
Everybody loves that sound.
like
I don't
nails.
think I have
on a
any
chalkboard.
jokes. Hopefully, it'll
Oh
Uh,
no!
Aj again.
I let
no.
it go because it was me again. Oh, it's you now.
Oh shit! I've got one legit in my back pocket. I told my wife she should embrace her mistakes. She gave me a hug.
That's pretty good.
Sucker.
Want another one?
Yeah.
Why don't skeletons fight each other? They don't have the guts.
Oh, should have seen it coming.
I'll keep the rest in my pants for next time.
Anatomically correct.
You're
jokes.
welcome.
Good stuff, you guys.
Yeah.
Very good. Very nice. Very nice.
Really grateful to be doing all of this with you guys. I love you all very much.
Truth.
Thank you.
Love you too.
And we have the coolest kids ever. I'm so grateful for how awesome they are.
That is
Every
true.
single
Had a really
one of them.
fun little mini trip with some of them recently, and it was just
Was
great
fun.
the whole time. It was really fun.
yes.
They teach me, that's for sure.
That's right. Thanks everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, guys.
We love you. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
For episode
Bye.
30.
4 parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really want to talk about this. 4 parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here. 4 parents, 9 kids, 2 houses. Didn't really want to talk about this. 4 parents, 9 kids, I'm queer. One thing's clear, there's no dysfunction here. Babe, hand me a